and we seem to have an understanding, and they don't seem to be the same. So are you going to provide the documents for Lois Lerner?
Yes.
That were subpoenaed?
Yes.
And how long will that take?
I do not know. I know it's going to take us several weeks.
You got to be kidding me. 13 months ago we asked for these emails and now suddenly they can't find them? How convenient. These things don't just disappear. They don't just fall off the end of the earth. They're out there. They just don't want us to have them.
IRS officials blaming a 2011 computer crash of the hard drive for keeping the agency from turning over thousands of emails from 2009 to 2011. Here's what the White House said about this today. Quote, Josh Earnest, it's entirely reasonable because it's the truth and it's fact. And speculation otherwise, I think, is indicative of the kind of conspiracies that are propagated around this story. There is ample evidence to indicate that a good faith effort has been made by the IRS to cooperate with congressional oversight, and the far-fetched skepticism expressed by some Republican members of Congress, I think, is not at all surprising and not particularly believable. Charles.
These guys are living on a different planet. They asked for this a year ago. It's now discovered that they are lost. I've seen quotes from computer experts who worked for decades at Microsoft who say that this can absolutely be found. And we already heard from one of the IRS officials a few months ago that all of this stuff is backed up. Now, the idea, here we have Nixon lost 18 minutes. Obama's now lost 2 years of email. And one thing that people don't remember, the second article of impeachment for Richard Nixon was the abuse of the IRS to pursue political enemies. This is a high crime. This is not a triviality. When the president said there was a smidgen of corruption, this all had to do with a rogue operation in Cincinnati, we already know from a newly released email as a result of a Freedom of Information Act procedure that it was run from the Washington IRS and not a rogue operation out there. And now the question is, was the White House involved, political people involved? And these emails hold a secret, and all of a sudden we're asked to believe they have disappeared into thin air.
Ron.
Josh's statement, with all due respect, is insulting to my intelligence. It really makes me angry. The reason there's questions about this is because they haven't answered the questions. The fact of the matter is we don't know the facts. We don't know if anybody's guilty here or not. But we do know that one of the most pernicious things our government can do is use the IRS to come after us. So once that allegation is out there, the president has an obligation, and as a matter of fact, he promised he would do this, to get to the bottom of it. We needed to see immediately every email in the IRS involving this incident and everything from Lois Lerner and every email in the White House and the campaign revolving around this targeting, both of Democrats and of conservative groups. They've been stalling for 13 months. A year ago, after only 6 weeks of this, I wrote a column saying that the Republicans are overreaching and the White House is overly political. We need to have a special prosecutor. I renewed that call on Friday. Until they cough up the evidence and let the public see whether or not they were being guilty, it's hard to presume anything other than a cover-up.
Yes, I mean, compare the reaction in this town, and particularly by the media in this town, when 40 years ago, 18.5 minutes out of Nixon's tapes of hours and hours and hours of tapes were missing. The country was incandescent. Now you have 2 years, and conveniently, these are the emails that are Lois Lerner not communicating within the IRS, but with other people, right. Perhaps the White House, perhaps we're not going to know. This matters because the IRS is a law enforcement agency. Right. It is the most intrusive and potentially the most punitive agency of the federal government, and we know beyond peradventure that it has been politicized and has forfeited any right it had to be presumed innocent in a case like this. I have one question for the IRS. How many computers crashed back then? Is it just one? Just Lois Lerner's? That would be really interesting to know.
There are several lawmakers already calling for the NSA to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's the irony. We're going to have overlapping scandals here pretty soon. I want to give this president the benefit of the doubt. I want to give every president who I cover and who is my president the benefit of the doubt. They don't deserve the benefit of the doubt here. They have squandered that. We need to see the facts. Just turn over the emails and let's see what's going on. And it's not just, first of all, if you're going to believe that they were lost in the IRS, let's set that aside. If there was wrongdoing, those emails weren't just written inside the IRS. They went to the White House and they went to the campaign. Where are those emails?
Lois Lerner at the time.
And they went to the Justice Department.
Where are those emails? Sure. Exactly.
Lois Lerner at the time asked IRS IT professionals to restore her hard drive, but they were unable to do so. Nonetheless, the IRS has or will produce 24,000 emails from 2009 to 2011.
I would say the urgency of restoring her emails is slightly higher today than it was in 2011. So I think they ought to try once again, bring in outside experts, people who are not Democrats or Republicans, who know computers, and turn them loose. The answer that we got from Josh Earnest, I think, is a definition of contempt of Congress. You really have to think that Congress and the rest of us are stupid if you believe what they are telling us.
Besides this channel, one other channel in network television covered this. Surprising to you, George?
Not anymore, no, because people have been trying to force the IRS scandal onto the national consciousness and failing because, unlike Watergate, it's like Watergate in every other particular as an abuse of government to punish political enemies, except the engagement of the media.